Just briefly, the network is spread out across these regions, within South Africa, within Southern Africa, within East Africa, within Europe. Okay? And within Europe, we're obviously in Marseille, in London, and in Amsterdam, and a few other places we're looking at. What we are hoping to offer now is a remote peering service, which is akin to what Bill just mentioned a few slides ago, where we take connectivity between African countries to Europe, but also between African countries to other African countries where we are. Okay? And some of the work that we're doing in this area, some of you might have known about an announcement that AMP6 and TESPOC, the ISP Association in Kenya, and also CECOM made last year about building the AMP6 East Africa Exchange Point in Mombasa. And we are hoping that together with that build out in Mombasa and with the network that CECOM has deployed in the region, we would be looking to improve peering within Africa, regionalize as much of that as possible within Mombasa, and also to attract from Europe more players who are keen to peer within Africa at the AMP6 East Africa Exchange Point. We also have just concluded a partnership with NAP Africa, who is a major exchange point in South Africa, and they would be quite key in extending peering from South Africa on the exchange point into the rest of Africa and into Europe for those who are interested. Similarly with links in London, France IX in Marseille, and with AMP6 in Europe, we should be extending connectivity on Ethernet purely for peering between Africa and these locations, and also between Europe and Africa. Okay? And all of this obviously runs on top of CECOM's MPLS network, which is essentially an Ethernet extension between the endpoints. The service could be point-to-point, could be point-to-multipoint, and runs from as little as 10 meg to as high as 10 gig, depending on what you want, and everything else in between. So really, it's just to extend what Bill has been talking about. We feel that there's a market for remote peering. There's perhaps some difficulty in building out networks to these locations purely for peering and not anything else. And we feel that if there is a solution that is slightly cheaper for the operators to get into these locations to peer, to extend their reach between countries in Africa and regionalize that peering as much as possible, we feel that we can do the best that we can in the market to facilitate that. And if you're looking to get a little bit more detail on how this is going to work from our perspective, we are here with Robert Marston and Willem Murray, who come from our products and sales side, and they can give you more information about this. But technically and for the community, this is what we're looking at, and we feel that this is the next step in evolving the peering platform for Africa with the infrastructure that we now have today in the marine and on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for that. And now I'd like to invite the final speaker for this panel, Frank from France IX, and he will be talking about benefit of peering at the exchange point. And then we'll take Q's and A's for all the three presentations. Okay, Frank?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Frank. I'm the France IX. So we are running an exchange in France, of course, in Paris and in Marseille. So just very quick background. So 8 POPs today, 7 in Paris, 1 in Marseille. You have seen, for instance, that CECOM has recently established a partnership with us to deliver members in Marseille. And of course, we have a redundant core backbone based on 2 cores. So all the edge POPs are duly connected to the core to make sure that in case of issue on the fiber or even an issue on a switch, then all the traffic is automatically rerouted through the exchange without any impact. The aim of the presentation today is to make you understand which type of player you may find on an internet exchange. I'm used to say that if you are a modern internet exchange, you should expect much more members than only operators, ISPs, or internet service providers. For instance, on France.AX, we decided to run case studies to understand why our members were connected on the exchange. Of course, we know they are connecting to peer, but then when they are appearing in practice, what type of traffic they are sending over the exchange, and this is what we wanted to know. And in fact, we have identified several types of players, emailing service providers, hosting companies, also companies running e-commerce, so selling products over internet, but also any private companies. We have several industrial companies connected to France.AX, and in fact, they have usage from the internet. And even if they are not operators, they want to optimize the connectivity for their own members, their own users. And so they are not professional of internet, but they want to optimize, and not only by IP transit. And we have also members, of course, CDNs, a lot of cloud players, and more recently online media. So we have several TV channels connected over France.AX. And for now, they are mainly using, the kind of replay service you may have on their website to replay a TV program you have missed, for instance. But by the time we are also looking at using the exchange to carry directly the media flows used by the TV channels themselves. And I will talk about that later on. So based on this type of profile, this type of members, we have done case studies. For now, we have done 4 of them. The first case study we have done was for CDN, and in fact, it was a big CDN because it is Akamai indeed. And we have done this work for every type of player. So the presentation is to show you the feedback we got from such members and why they decided to peer, and in fact, what do they use in terms of service on the exchange itself. So for the CDN, it's pretty basic. Most of them have an open peering policy because, of course, they are providing content, so the more peers they get, the happier they are. So for most of them, they are happy to peer with our route servers. Today, 85% of our members are using the route server service. And so typically the CDNs, almost all of them are using this service. And for the CDNs not using this service anyway, they have an open peering policy, so they accept to peer with any member. And also they were interested in accessing to our Marseille POP because they wanted to reach Africa, Middle East and Asia. And you all know that one of the big issues today in Africa is to have local content. So you have players like Google, for instance, they are developing caches in Africa. They are also supporting internet exchange initiatives and so on. But a lot of CDNs are not there. And so, of course, the CDNs are also trying to push to deliver the traffic to as many players, and that's why a player like Akamai, for instance, but it may work also for any other CDNs. They want to be in Marseille because everybody knows that you have cables landing from Africa to London, but also from Africa to Marseille. And so these 2 places are nice places to catch players from Africa and make sure that as there are landing places for many destinations, it's an easy way to set up a gateway. And a gateway like an internet exchange is the ideal place for that. So I would say the CDN is a very classic player. Now if you look at players like email service providers, so we have members on France.AX that are running professional campaigns to send emails. So I'm not talking about spams. I'm talking about a professional campaign to send information or advertisement. And such members, of course, they will use the exchange because they think they have an optimized path, and they may have a cost, a gain of cost compared to IP transit, for instance. And what we have done on FranceX to make sure that this type of members were using the exchange, in their case, when they do launch their campaign to send emailing, they have a lot of traffic and then nothing between two campaigns. And so in their case, they had huge bursts. And how do you address that on an internet exchange? So a few other exchanges have also this offer, and we have that on FranceX. You can differentiate the capacity of your physical port from the capacity you want to contract with us. So for instance, we have members, they take a 10 gig port, but it does not mean that they pay for a 10 gig port. They pay for instance, 2 gig, and then of course we do a kind of percentile rule to remove all the burst. And in their case, they have burst only very temporarily. So they don't want to pay a full 10 gig port. Meanwhile, most of the time their port is empty. And so they are happy to find this kind of offer. So in their case, they are not only benefiting from the fact they have short paths, but also from the fact that an internet exchange is able to differentiate the type of port from the bandwidth they pay. And this is something you should keep in mind. Even as a slow start, when you are launching your exchange, you may have very aggressive offers differentiating the port and the bandwidth they can use on it. And of course, this emailing service providers, they wanted to have access to CDN, so we are going back to the first point. The CDNs want to push as much content as possible, and this type of players want to access the CDNs. And also, in the case of such players, they wanted to reach mailboxes of big hostess customers. So for instance, they were interested in collecting or accessing directly members connected through Google Mail or Microsoft boxes and so on, because they are hosting a lot of email boxes and they want to have peer with such members. And also in their case, they wanted to catch Asian players or Asian destinations through Marseille. Now, we also have a lot of cloud entities or cloud services provided over the exchange. And in their case, they are mainly interested in short paths. And they want to access to the route servers because the end customers are maybe ISPs or even private companies. And so they want to catch globally all the internet players to sell them services over the exchange. And FranceX, for instance, even for our own use, we use a lot of cloud services. We have a lot of servers to run the exchange. And so the most critical servers are run internally, but we are also using cloud services ourselves. And we are running the exchange, but we are also connected to the exchange for our own use. And we are peering also for our local area network. Now for operators, this is a more complex case. And you may differentiate operators, I would say big operators from medium operators or tier one from any other players. Because for instance, when you are a very big operator, what we do see on FranceX, and I think that you could see that on any exchange, the very big players, the very big operators, they are not fond of peering, you know, especially when they do sell IP transit themselves. So they may do a few peers or private paid peering. So in that case, how do you attract such members to your exchange? They are not going to peer with anybody. You may opt for it, but you may not get it. So in fact, then you have to develop other type of services. You may allow private VLANs, for instance, because if they are on the exchange, it's not to peer with everybody. They want to do only private peering or very limited policy peering. So in that case, what they do is they ask for private peers, and they ask for private VLANs through the exchange, and then they may advertise even a full routing table to a few members. And in fact, they peer with a few ones, selling IP transit to other ones, and the common point is that they are using the global gateway of the exchange for that. And for instance, we have several big operators in France, and you may know that in France, several big players are now competing to deliver 4G service through the mobiles because they are all of them moving from 3G to 4G services. And a few of them are sending all their 3G and 4G data over the exchange. And for them, of course, in practice, then they are using the unicast service. But my point is not to say that everybody is using unicast, of course. But in their case, they are interested in the exchange to sell all the mobile traffic they have on their backbone. And this is a quite interesting point. Of course, they also want to reach the CDNs because as they are operators, several of them are eyeballs. So they have end customers and users, and such users want to catch the CDNs. And also this type of members, several of them are big carriers. They are operators, but also carriers. So they do not only provide IP services to their members, to their customers, they also provide transport services. So in their case, such members, they need to have from the exchange services like a reseller program, meaning that such members are not directly bringing IP service to the end user. They are providing a layer to link a remote connection to the exchange plus the virtual port to the exchange. So this is a reseller program. So carriers like that or big operators, they are really looking at this type of service. So my point is that depending on the type of member you have, they may be interested in the exchange for various reasons. So this dashboard is not fully detailed. It's just an overview of some services that may interest members and may not interest other members. So for instance, you can see that a reseller program, a CDN by default, or a cloud entity does not care about a reseller program. Meanwhile, an operator or a carrier will care about it. And regarding the access to the route servers, I've put yes and no for the operators. It means that some operators will be happy to use the route servers, some of them not. But even in the part of the players who wanted to access the route servers, for instance, we had very big operators in France, they say, okay, we may send our routes to your servers, but there are some players on your exchange that we don't want them to receive our routes because maybe they are already customer of them, or you may find other reason for that. And in that case, at first, we were not providing BGP communities on our route server, so it was meaning that a member sending the route to our server, all the routes will be broadcasted to other participants of the route servers. And some participants told us, okay, globally, I want to send the routes to 99% of the members, but this member in particular, I want to make sure he's not receiving my routes through the route server. So you just activate BGP communities on your route server, and then this type of member is happy to participate because he will be able globally to send the routes to everybody except for a few members. But if you don't provide that, this type of member is not peering at all with your route server, and then you lose something and you have much less routes on it. And so for now, we have analyzed only 4 types of peers. So you have seen that we have done case studies for emailing service providers, CDN, and two other type of members. But this is an ongoing study. So by the end of the year, we run additional case studies. All the actual case studies we run for now are available on our website. And you have also a data sheet for it, and also a video. And this is both in French and in English. But of course, you may have a lot of other services that I didn't mention on your exchange. But they are, I would say, less critical services than the previous one I mentioned. For instance, you may have multicast, but in practice, a lot of internet exchanges are providing multicast service, but almost nobody is using it. Because even if a carrier or provider is running multicast internally on its backbone, it does not mean that he has multicast peers outside. He's just using multicast as a technology or a protocol to broadcast the flow inside his backbone. And we have also interconnection with other ISPs. We provide NTP synchronization, secondary DNS, access to root servers. And also in an exchange, you may expect from an exchange to have a nice web portal, not only as flow stats showing matrix of stats and so on, but also looking glass, so that it helps your members troubleshoot the issues through the exchange, especially why do I learn this route from this member, and it does avoid your NOC to be congested by many members asking for support. You should make sure that when you are running the exchange, one of the added value of your point is that the more autonomous are your members, the happier they are and the happier you are, because you receive less requests to your NOC. And meanwhile, they have a lot of tools to do auto-diagnosis, and even of their optical port or about the routes they receive, or how do the other members receive the routes you advertise, for instance. And this is very important. And as I said, by the time we will publish all the other case studies on our website, and we will make sure that we keep listening to our members, because of course it's nice to have new players, but you must understand why they are coming to your exchange and which service they are interested in. We are also working on developing new services, and this is also a shared study combining data we receive from our members and also ideas we have. And of course, we try to converge. And so, as I said, we are looking at using the exchange to exchange media flow, so all TV programs in real time and so on going through the exchange. And we also believe that a modern internet exchange should be a kind of marketplace. So of course, you peer, but this is a place where all type of members running internet stuff are there. So it should be a marketplace where you could peer, you could buy or sell IP transit, you could catch many players, do private interconnects or whatever you want. The point is that in one place you have all the players, and this is something you have to develop. And we have also a test bed that we are going to put in place on FranceX. And I had one remark from my board saying, okay, it's nice for FranceX to have a test bed so that when you are running a new operating system on your devices, you may run out of tests and so. But as we have a lot of equipment in this test bed, the proposal is, why wouldn't we run a virtual test bed available also for our members? So it means that a part of the test bed would be dedicated for FranceX engineering. But as we have a lot of equipment in spare and put in place in the test bed, we may think that our members may benefit from this test bed using a reservation tool to access to that. We are going also to develop SIP peering, because we did receive requests for not only, of course, BGP peering, but an internet exchange is a global peering place. And peering does not only mean BGP. It may also mean SIP peering to exchange also other type of services. And we are also looking at advanced security services, because we are running S-Flow on the exchange. So we are able to identify security issues thanks to that. And related to other boxes specialized in analyzing or identifying security issues, you may provide advanced services for your members to help them identify security issues when there is abnormal flows on the exchange, for instance. So this is it. And FranceX is also a sponsor of this event among the various sponsors. So feel free to